Thank you for staying with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC, has issued a strong directive ensuring equal access to public facilities for political parties and candidates in the upcoming governorship election in Edo and Ondo states. It could be recalled that over the years, a recurring issue in Nigeria's electioneering has been the misuse of power of incumbency, to block opposition parties and candidates from utilizing public facilities for rallies and other campaign events, which often leads to violent clashes among supporters and disrupt public peace. In a statement signed by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, INEC, Sam Olumekun, warned all the political parties and their candidates against a violation of Section 95, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022, which strictly prohibits the use of state resources to favor or disadvantage any party or candidate. Well, joining us in the studio is security expert Darlington Umoru to discuss this. Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. Anyway, we saw development. I'm certain that INEC is speaking with regards to development that came out of Rivers State, not Edo State, I meant to say, where one of the governorship candidates claimed that his posters were removed from where they were posted and all of the billboards and stuff. And then we saw another video talking about we will not allow certain things happen, and all of that. Talk to us from your perspective, how it is that we have not been able to address this issue over the years. Like INEC stated, it keeps recurring when it comes to times like this.
How can you be able to address it when politics in Nigeria is about the winner takes all? And so the power of incumbency in most times is usually brought to suppress the opposition, and they use everything within their might. You're talking about state resources. You're talking about facilities. Up until politics changes its face, that face of one man who wins, taking it all, and then that interest to do everything within your might to ensuring that the other man loses the election, you cannot get it right. What have we been able to do to address that situation?
We have laws.
You have laws, but are they working? Is it enough to have laws or to execute them? You talked about the reoccurrence, which meant that this has become an antecedent that has been there over time, and that will still come again in other elections. You find even during the presidential elections where presidential candidates' posters were removed in some states. How have we been able? Who has been taken to court?
Yeah.
Have you heard anybody taking any other person to court for reasons that, well, you contravened section blah, 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 like you read now? Forgive me, I'm not a lawyer. Section 95,
subsection 2.
Forgive me, I'm not a lawyer. My sister, I'm not a lawyer. But who has gone to court? If INEC says this has been reoccurring, and they are issuing this statement at this time that there should be a level playing ground, how can you have a level playing ground? Politics in Nigeria is about money. And you talked about states not using their resources. When they say resources, perhaps the allocation coming from the center. As against, even with the rules that you don't spend beyond this and all of that, how do you monitor that? Who has been taken to court to say because you contravened what the Constitution said about this, and so, well, for these reasons, let's is it nullify your election now, or whatever you want to say. Until these issues, you see, you don't cut a tree from branches from the top and expect to have a different result. You must uproot it. You must uproot it. So this same situation happens virtually every time you have elections cutting across all spheres.
Who should do the operating now?
Well, who are the people talking now?
INEC.
Aha. If INEC had the regulators and they think it is within their power to make such statements, then they should also address the issues properly. These electoral laws are supposed to be executed by who? The courts have a role to play, but who must take them to the courts for prosecution? You see, sometimes when I see some of these statements, I begin to wonder, this thing has been there over time. Nothing has been done beyond talking. So amount, you don't need more than so amount to execute your elections in certain elections and all of that.
INEC will tell you they do not have the powers to do so.
And so who is talking now? If you as the umpire, look, the areas where they do not have the power to do that is the area of perhaps disqualification when it comes to elections. But what about the guidelines? Who issued them? Who is issuing the guidelines for elections in Nigeria? Is it Darlington or Veronica? Maybe Veronica, I guess.
And in addition to your point, some have also, mentioned the fact that for every election cycle, INEC comes out to roll out guidelines.
Guidelines.
Just let everyone know, okay, you should abide by this. But
your left or your right?
What will be the place of, monitoring and ensuring compliance and also discipline of those persons that do not comply with these guidelines?
By whom? The monitoring now, who should do that? That's where the question is. You see, when it does not favor them, they tell you that it is not within their powers to do AZ.
When it does not favor them, how do you mean?
When it becomes controversial, you issue guidelines. You come out to tell us that it is not within your prerogative to take those people to court. When you have a legal department, who issues the guidelines and what are the guidelines you issued for? You meant you are issuing guidelines and then you are leaving it for another person to come and execute for you. Our electoral laws should specify some of these things. The Constitution is there, has stated its own. We also have electoral laws.
Aren't those the gaps that perhaps we need to begin to look at if we talk about improving our election process?
Precisely. That's why I said, whether it's Veronica that should execute those laws, you see now, we have to get it right. We are just beating about the bushes. We are. We know what it is. How do we get it right? That's the question. Let us know whose responsibility it is to carry out A, whose responsibility it is to carry out B. You are issuing guidelines. You cannot monitor them and then do something else if they are going the other way. You see, sometimes these things are created, these lacunas are created for the politicians to further begin to heat up the polity and then beat themselves. Look, the power of incumbency, you cannot take it away at any point in time.
Except the laws are addressed.
Enforced. You cannot. For instance, Party A is in charge of a state, and then an election is coming between Party A and Party B. Party A wants to come back, whether with the sitting governor or with another candidate. Okay? And then another person is wielding influence and is using the facilities. We have seen situations where stadium, or the opposition party is denied the use of stadium to launch their campaign. because a particular party is in government. Now we're talking about billboards where you pay. Some are either made to pay more. They are meant to pay more to discourage them from coming to make use of those billboards. That is when you are even allowed to pay more. And some other times they'll say for strategic reasons, they must not occupy these places. The one that happened in Edo State was at Ondo. The gateway into Edo State. Perhaps one of the gateways because you could use bypass now. But if you are entering Benin, that point is strategic. It meant that whoever is coming into Benin, the capital of Edo State, must see it. And then there were deniers upon deniers. The sitting government says they were not the ones, or they didn't send anybody to remove it and all of that.
All right, talking about denials, what would be the place of, these parties educating their followers during elections? Because now you mentioned that the state governments came out to say they are not the one, but they have persons behind them that are carrying out duties, maybe not on their behalf. But what will be the place of, educating their supporters that, elections can be conducted peacefully?
Openly or behind the doors?
Openly and behind
the doors.
That's
both.
Going to work.
Whichever way.
My dear, there's only one language the politicians understand, and that language is how to win elections. Whatever they will be telling their followers is about whatever anybody would do to ensuring your contributions to ensuring that they win or they won the election. That's it. Would you be going to educate your followers to say, please don't go do this behind the doors or in front of the door?
And that's a bad attitude towards election.
It is.
Those who are interested have this attitude.
Because the winner must take it all. Until you de-emphasize that. That is politics for you. You see, there's no point coming to sit here and begin to pretend about it. That is the face of politics, the way it is in Nigeria at the moment. I don't know about tomorrow. But for now, the only language any political party understands is what do we do to win this election?
No.
You have seen violence. You have seen ballot box being snatched. You have seen people being fed. You have seen money exchanging hands. Voters have received money at polling booth areas, not arrested. So this only language, the basic campaign within members, what do we do? You must deliver your constituency. You must deliver yours. I must deliver mine. As long as we belong to the same party. That's why there's always reconciliation after primary.
Well, let's talk about this matter of de-emphasizing the matter of winner takes all. How we can work on that, because it's our democracy we're talking about, and this year we celebrated 25 years of democracy. And if these are issues that we know are perhaps a clog in the wheel of progress of our democracy, then we need to begin to speak to the issues. So if you're saying de-emphasizing the matter of winner takes all, how do we go about it?
The Constitution first. A review of the Constitution, the constitutional provisions that has to do with our elections must be revisited. The electoral laws must also be revisited. And beyond that, execution.
We've been amending and amending.
Execution, that said, beyond all of that, how do we execute some of these things that are provided on paper?
These same laws have to address that.
Yes, but how much have we been... Okay, we've just talked about... I asked a question. I said, those who have defied the laws...
Who have been taken to court.
How many of them have been taken to court? A billboard was destroyed and created a kind of hula balloon in Edo State.
Yes.
And then it got to the heat got to the point that the sitting government said they don't know anything about it. Who controls... those who place advert on the billboards in the state?
Basically, media campaigns.
It's supposed to be the state government. And then a sitting government, something happens. It happens, so it wasn't angels. 1 or 2 persons would have seen 1 or 2 persons destroying those posters. We have seen all of that. They say, okay, where you place posters in strategic areas of a particular candidate, you wake up the next morning, they've all been torn off. The ones that cannot be removed, they are painted to deface them. Are you saying nobody saw that? Are you saying sometimes you place poster A here, you come back in the morning, poster B is placed on top of poster A. Okay, who placed poster B on poster A? So what has been done to even the person whose face is on poster B that is sitting on poster A? Are you saying you cannot investigate to get to who was meant to place poster B in that vicinity? If you carry out some investigation, you'll be able to get at the person. First, get to the person whose face is on poster B. And then he will tell you he does not know, and then get to his people. But they eventually will provide those who are meant to paste those posters in those places and then take them to court. Which example have we set? Beyond the paperwork, let us carry out this thing effectively. INEC will tell you it is not within their prerogative to go to court on those matters. But yet they are the ones issuing guidelines. Would the police on their own just go? Won't somebody invite the police to make arrests and do prosecution?
Isn't that where collaboration with sister agencies come in?
Very well. Very well. We need all of that, but the security agencies, but you must get them involved. I don't think any of the security agencies will just want to on their own. It's because a poster is destroyed or because somebody is overspending money. The best police has done so far is go to certain some polling booths and then look for those who are distributing money, and then 1 or 2 arrests were made. But how many have gone to jail? The Ondo elections that brought in the sitting government or other government, we've had series of allegations of how money exchanged hands, but how many have gone to jail? How many?
Big question.
These are issues. I'm asking these questions because I'm sure INEC is watching. How do we address these matters?
And while we are talking about how INEC will address these matters, you have mentioned the review of some of these laws and INEC themselves ensuring compliance. But let's also talk about the capacity of INEC to handle some of these issues like monitoring, compliance, and also working with sister agency. We also know that it's also possible for some officials, maybe in INEC or some sister agencies, to be used by these political parties. Often.
But we cannot substantiate that because nobody has gone to jail for it.
That's it.
They are mercy. If they happen and nobody has been found guilty or held liable for such offenses, you can really not be able to substantiate that. And so if you cannot substantiate it, then it becomes a hearsay or something more like a rumor. But it happens. What INEC has, when you say capacity, INEC has the ability to demand for funds. They have their own budget for whatever they want to run, whatever election they want to cover, whatever they want to do. They have a way of asking for funds to suit and cover, even in excess of what they want to do to run an election and deliver. And so if they need ad hoc staff to help them do all of those partial monitoring, they can still hire them. And then to be supervised by a substantive staff. Otherwise, it remains just what messy, like we come here, we discuss it, we go back and nothing happens.
And then come back again.
And then did you say come back again to talk about it? Okay.
You want to come?
Okay, I'll come again. but the truth is, INEC has the capacity to do whatever they want to do, because the thing that will drive capacity basically for INEC is funds. With funds, they can hire ad hoc staff, like I said. They can also hire more staff on their own, and then at the end of the day, they can achieve what they want to achieve. But the truth is INEC overwhelmed? Is it that their attention is basically focused on certain areas more than the rest? If so, say these are your limitations, and then let government, it's this government at the center come in.
Do you think INEC is overwhelmed? Because at some points there were talks about, you know, breaking INEC into...
INEC will tell you, INEC themselves for now with what they have, I don't want to completely say they're overwhelmed, but between you and I, we know all of those lacunas that INEC faces every time there's election keep repeating. And when they repeat, well, what does that mean? It means they've not been able to arrest that situation. And if they are not able to arrest that situation, it means they are overwhelmed. And then when they are overwhelmed, they look for the easy way. Anybody who is overwhelmed in Nigeria, rather than say, well, this is exactly the way it is, they look for the easy way out to say, well, it is not within my purview to cover this or go to that area. No, we cannot continue in that mannerism. Elections in Nigeria is about a winner takes it all. Let us think and look at how to run away from that. Where one man, when he comes, well, some people are already suggesting a regional government. You know, perhaps maybe that will also help to reduce what we are passing through at the moment.
Okay, we'll have to leave the conversation here now. We must thank you, security expert Darlington Omoro, for your time on the program. Thank you.
My pleasure.